paper magic will survive like the heat death of the universe, and will...
Oh, it's a smuggler's copter. Would you like to crew this? And then it crashes because they don't understand arithmetic.
All your cards belong to me.
2 minutes into macing him in the eyeballs, I switched to pepper spray. He's like, it's all right, refreshing. And went back to the mace.
Magic is dying. I'm done. Selling everything.
I might be a hoarder. And yes,
I don't have the crayons or glue to explain this to you right now.
What, are you gonna die twice?
Oil will be worthless before magic cards will.
well, okay, Dr. Man.
That's Mr. Dr. Professor Jason.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into Brainstorm Brewery. I'm Corbin Hostler, joined this week by a very special guest. I know that this wasn't how it was for many years, but these days, Brainstorm Brewery is a bit of a rotating cast, as you all got a glimpse of Jason coming out of retirement for a show last week. We hope you enjoyed that. And there'll be more of that, of course, for our patrons at patreon.com/BSB for some of those after hours with Jason and Cass. However, this week, it is not just me. I have a guest. In fact, I have the guest, the Tannon Grace on Twitter, has joined us. Welcome into the show, Tannon.
Hey, Corbin, thanks for having me. Thanks for the nice introduction, and I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, Tannon, for those who don't know, has been doing Magic/gaming for a very long time at a very high level, professionally, going back to old Pro Tour days. These days is on the coverage team for basically every online event you've seen, a whole bunch of in-paper events over the last couple years, whether that is Magic Regional Championship level, or even Lorcana you've been up to. We're going to talk about that a little bit. But Tannon is sort of an old coverage hand who is also a very high-level player, as, you know, we like to bring onto the show from time to time. So we're going to talk about just kind of what life has been like in Magic recently. We've gone through a lot of changes, a lot of growth, it feels like, with Final Fantasy, and we'll see where things go. So with that said, welcome into the show, Tannon. What has been up with you lately?
Not a whole lot, Corbin, other than, just working, doing as much as I can with Magic and Lorcana. I have a small part-time job I do on the side because, like a lot of us, I get bored. What is it? What's the idle hands? I don't like sitting around and doing nothing. So, a lot of arena in my free time. I'm a big baseball fan. It's baseball season. I know you know this. It's not a sports podcast, but anyone who knows me knows I love sports and stuff too. So,
well, we're gonna take a quick detour on that note. I went to a Dodgers game a few weeks ago for the first time.
Oh, how was that for you? Was it in LA or?
It was.
Okay.
I took my 9-year-old out to the game, because as a matter, this is parents at home can take this story for what it is. I think it's a good story. I had to miss a birthday party to work an event. And in exchange for missing the birthday party to work that event, I said, I'll take the money that I'm making from that event and we'll go on a trip with it. So my son chose that we would go to Dodger Stadium, which we did. We got to go see Shohei pitch 2 scoreless innings, which was excellent. We got to go down on the field afterwards.
That's
it was
so
a lot
cool.
of fun. Yeah.
That's I once missed a 4-year anniversary for a Magic Pro Tour where I was like out of the country. So like I could, and this was I think like early 2000s or something like that. So I couldn't even call my partner. So I had to like send her flowers ahead of time and stuff. Yeah, it was. I had to make up for it as well.
I mean, everyone gets it, and it's sort of like a lot of people with their partners will organize it, right? Like. And this is obviously not judging, but for many people, it's the thought that counts. But whether you do something on the actual day of is less relevant than perhaps whether you do something. So yeah, I just got to take my son and do a special trip, a birthday type trip. It was a good time. The Dodgers lost. That was less of a good time, but.
Right. Yeah, but that's a memory you're going to have with your kid for the rest of your life. Hopefully they remember it. And then you said 9, right? I think they should be able to. If they're like 4, they probably won't. But he did get to see the greatest athlete of all time play in his home stadium. So that is pretty cool.
That's a bold claim. The greatest athlete of not just baseball.
Yeah. I mean, so like athlete. Yeah, like I guess athlete is a hard thing to say. But yeah, sure. Athlete might be. it's the most talented baseball player to ever step on the diamond, period. And I will not hear a conversation otherwise.
Yeah, I'm 100% on that train with you. So
Yeah,
no
yeah.
argument here. Now tell me about LeBron. Tell me how you feel that.
I'm a Jordan guy, dude. I was alive in the
See,
90s.
See,
so
here we go.
yeah. I mean,
Here's
the thing.
Shohei
Obviously,
is the
sure, obviously LeBron is a GOAT. Like he's amazing, but I'm a Jordan guy, dude. I was born in 1984. I grew up in the 90s. I had the shoes, I had the jerseys, I had the what is it, the starter jacket? The starter jacket, right?
Space Jam
Yeah.
came out and you just lost it.
Oh yeah. I mean, I was like probably 10 when Space Jam came out. Whatever. Obviously, I was, I've seen it like 17 times.
Yeah. I mean, look, I was born in 88, so I missed this just a little bit. Like I obviously was alive, but like, when Jordan won, when they do the second three-peat, and I'm like 7 years old or whatever, right? Like it's not a real memory compared to things when you're say 10 to 12 or whatever.
Sure. Like my age. Yeah.
So like I do feel like I missed just a little bit of that. But Space Jam, one of my favorite movies, of course, and one of the first ones I showed.
Also, like, it's just to go on this for one more second. Everybody at home, sorry, we're talking about sports ball so much, but when you're comparing people of different eras, like we can even talk about this in Magic for a second too. But when you're comparing people of different eras, it's never apples to apples, right? Like Jordan and LeBron didn't play even in the same rule set. Like they changed the rules drastically for the game and how it was officiated, blah blah blah. Like, so there's a joke that I tell all the time. Like, here's a good one for you because you're a baseball and you're a Dodgers fan. We talk about like, is Shohei better than like Babe Ruth or whatever, right? I'm like, yes, he's way more talented than Babe Ruth was. Obviously, Babe was insane for his time, but like, if we took a modern day player and put them in their time, obviously things are way different, right? If we take Clayton Kershaw and move him back into like Babe Ruth's time and let him pitch, I don't think he gets through a game before he's burned at the stake for witchcraft the first time he throws a curveball. They're going to be like, what is that? And he's up there throwing 95. And they're used to, these guys who bag groceries on the weekend throwing 80-mile-an-hour potatoes down the middle.
I do. Look, I think that this does track to Magic very, very, very well, to be quite honest with you.
Conversation? Yeah.
Yeah, well, and the eras conversation, because, as someone who has been hovering and editing Magic articles by Magic pros, for 10 plus years now, Brian Braun-Dugan used to write a ton about how things were not necessarily different in X era. The tools we had to work with were just different. So it is also my opinion that the players that, just start naming names here, John and Kai played against, are not the same quality of the players that people played, that Nathan Storier had to go through in his 2-year run. This is how I personally come down to the conclusion that Paulo's probably the best Magic player.
So yeah, I was going to say that. I have Paulo a lot higher on my list than probably a lot of people. In fact, I think Paulo might be number 2 on my list. If I had to make, an all-time list, I've still got Kai as number 1. Maybe there's some extra sentiment with what's been going on lately, kind of clouding that. But yeah, I mean, the guy won 7 Pro Tours? Like, I get it. The average player is way better, or at least was way better during Paulo's time. I think Paulo played in what I like to refer to as like the golden age of Magic. I think Magic was at its actual peak for competitive play. Like the average player was very good. There was, 18 million articles a day coming out for you to get better. Magic Online was at like its actual peak with like, players and people, getting information out there and stuff. So there's a lot to it. And yeah, I'm of the belief that Paulo is one of the best, if not the best of all time as well.
Yeah, interesting. I actually have, I think that my list is probably Paulo, John, Kai.
I can see you having that opinion and respect it. I've got Kai ahead of John.
Yeah, I mean, the way that I always heard it described when I started playing is that, and I'm influenced by this story, is that Kai is the guy who played every game of Magic a million times and never therefore encountered a situation at a Pro Tour that he had not seen before. John was the player who could take a situation he's never seen before and figure it out on the fly, which is why he always played crazy complicated storm decks and would just show up in top 8 Pro Tours with them. Even going back to Pro Tour Modern Horizons 3, a lot of CFB showed up on Ruby's Storm instead of obviously the broken Nadu deck. And the reason was, well, John just kept winning with it in testing and no one could beat it. And then you just say that back in a slightly different. Yeah, John Finkel kept winning with it and no one could beat him.
Yeah.
And then it had a like historically bad win rate at the Pro Tour. Right. So I don't know. Like to me, like if I'm just, it comes down to like, maybe you talk about like talent versus accomplishments, right? Like I think, you know, but we really start tracking. Like I said, I think the sports comparison tracks very well to the Magic comparison. And I am probably like one of the like 3 people in the history of Magic who has written and thought the most about this comparison historically. But yeah, like, so on another level, looking at it, I think that Magic in 2025 is very different than when Paulo won Worlds in 2020.
Right? I can see that. Yeah.
Because there was no 17 lands in 2020 at that point, right? Like there was not big data available to every single person. The teams, I can tell you this for a fact, even the most advanced teams in the year 2019, 2020 were scratching the surface of the data aggregation that goes into things now. Like I was talking to one of the teams for this last PT, and you know, this isn't, oh, we ran a bunch of drafts and then compared our thoughts and averaged out what everyone thinks and came up with a scientific pick order. This is like, we ran X number of simulations and running this over this, when you have this, increases your win rate by X percentage in a hypothetical scenario, like level of detail for everything.
Yeah, it's very inside baseball now. Yeah, it's like they full on brought money ball.
Yeah, we're moneyballing the Pro Tour to a level like, you know, when Kai and John were winning Pro Tours, it was just vibes. Like we were playing Pro Tours on vibes, right?
You were testing with your local friends at your LGS, like
and by the time you get to Paulo's time, you have international professional teams, and people probably don't remember this, but in that time period, like what you say is probably the golden period of Magic competitive play. And I think it probably will hold true that is the peak, is certainly for a long time in that 2016, whatever, probably like 2013, 2019.
Yeah, that whole little period, yeah.
Where like we got up to 50 GPs a year, 50,000 people were watching the Pro Tour on Twitch live before view bots and arena and all that sort of crap.
We had multiple viable tours. You know, you could go the Pro Tour route, you could go the SCG route, you could do both.
Yeah, that's right. And you're right, the content ecosystem is way different. But you know what? The rise of Commander, obviously all of this goes into it. But yeah, even what it was back then, all of those teams probably didn't have as refined a process as the 5th best Pro Tour team in 2025. Just maybe I'm wrong on that, but that's just I think my thoughts. Fair.
Yeah.
So when we talk about the level of competition in Magic, and going back to the original sort of discussion here about comparing across eras, I mean, not to be, you know, too prisoner of the moment where just the best era is always the now era. Like, I just think that it's anything that Nathan Stoyer and Paulo Vitor Damarosa did is just fundamentally different than anything that happened before the iPhone.
I can 100% agree with you. Like, you know, you talk about being a prisoner of the now. It's almost always correct that the hardest competition you'll ever have is whatever it's going on now. You know, when you think about players like Michael Jordan versus LeBron James, or very good players in any sport, like a good example is Tiger Woods, right? It's Tiger Woods. Like, he fundamentally changed the game of golf, the way it's played, the way courses are designed, everything like that. So, like, the bar was raised for the players. They had to actually, like, beat that to get to his level and then become better, right? It's the same thing with, like, LeBron and Jordan, or, you know, Gretzky. Anytime a all-time talent comes into a sport or a game like this,
Yeah.
They push the next generation to be as good as them or better, and they may not be 100% up to the task of being better than them, but on average, they're a lot better because more of them aspire to be like this person, to be like Kai, to be like John. And so the next generation is just going to be better. It's just the way it is. We're going to have more information, like the stuff that they've learned, we all get to sit under their learning tree. You know what I mean? And so like that just funnels out into the field of everybody. I love that you keep mentioning Nathan Stoyer, by the way. Amazing player that I hope we get to see a lot more of on the Pro Tour the next few years. I know, he's fallen off the train a tiny bit and like been doing some other stuff, but like that kid could have one hell of a career if he really wants to. That's the other thing too. Is like
it's hard to tell if he fell off the train or just got onto a party bus instead.
Yeah. Yeah, like, exactly. Yeah.
It's hard to like. I know he's doing his thing, but like he's also, I think, just been doing some other stuff with his life, and it's hard to begrudge him that after. And I bring him up because he set the modern standard as as the person who is like actually going through the data and finding out, well, has this been done before? Instead of just calling everything unprecedented, it is in fact the job of, say, me, Frank Carson, and Rich Hagan, and Greg Collins, and Adam Staborski, and maybe a handful of other people I can throw out there who maybe would be less publicly named, who are just like grinding the data basically to figure out, well, has this sort of thing been done? And Nathan Stoyer set the bar with his 2-year run of sort of what a new play, like a wonderkind, for lack of a better term, because that's what he was 10 years ago. He's an adult now, but he's this isn't LSV coming out at 40 years old and for doing it. This is somebody who couldn't drink winning worlds in Vegas. So
let's be careful about throwing out the 40-year-old stuff. They're all gonna be 40. It doesn't make us any less of a Magic player.
No. You're in peak form, right?
I think I am actually in peak form now. I've been on a real big health kick the last few years. You and I talk about this at the Pro Tours a lot. I'm in like probably some of the best health I've ever had in my life. My day-to-day is a lot better. In fact, Corbin, we could talk about this for a second too. This is actually really interesting. When I made a comeback in Magic competitively, in my mind, I'm like, oh, it was only a few years ago. Thinking about it, it was actually like 7 years ago now at this point, or whatever, pre-pandemic. I had like a really good year or two where I was playing on the SCG tour, with a bunch of my friends and like a team that we had built there. And a lot of people asked, hey, like what was different? Like, were you a lot better or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, I think I was better. I had taken some time away. I'd played other games, taken what I'd learned from that. I definitely still wasn't doing as much testing and preparation as I should have then. I had a lot of stuff going on at the time. I was like, trying to build a family, a bunch of other stuff like that, right? Without getting too much into the weeds there. But one thing I did was I worked on my health a lot then, and I worked on like my sleep schedule and like preparing myself physically for the actual stuff. And like, look, I'm not in my, I wasn't in my 20s anymore. I couldn't stay out till 3 a.m, having a couple beers with the guys, and then get up at 8 a.m. to play a 9 a.m. tournament and just shrug it off. If I did that, I would just be miserable now, even if I made it to the tournament, which would be like 50-50 at best. But yeah, man, like if you're going to take this stuff seriously, like playing, 8 or 9 rounds in one day against what we're thinking are like some of the best players in history now, like if you're not doing that, you're already against the 8 ball. Like you're already at a disadvantage. So, and look, your kid agrees with me. So there we go.
Yes, he did. He came to say hi. So speaking of all of this, really competitive play, the Pro Tour, the place where you and I get to hang out, which we should do more of. I think actually, before we get too deep into the Pro Tour talk we're going to do here, one of my favorite events at a PT was the after party where you and I absolutely dominated the competition at, was it Cornhole?
Yeah, it was Cornhole.
Yeah.
I remember that was a lot of fun. And was it you or me that got injured because we were celebrating too much? I can't remember.
I wouldn't say that I got injured. Nor do I remember this exactly.
Yeah, I think you hurt your foot.
But it does seem likely that I could have kicked something. Yeah,
it's a very Corbin thing to do.
Yeah, like injury, maybe just just play through the pain.
Yeah,
that would almost certainly play through the pain to win.
Yeah, the pre
which we did. By the way.
The pre and after parties for the Pro Tours are pretty legendary. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, the other one that really stands out to me is when I needed you so badly, and I don't think this was an event you were at, bailed on me, but I had a judge with me taking on Corey and Brad in doubles ping pong at like
Ooh.
a ping pong place.
I'm not that great at ping pong, but I probably could have held my own.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, the player wasn't bad. The judge I was playing with, but
Mhm.
we did lose. It was a very intense game. I was pouring sweat by the end of it.
Yeah, I have this feeling Corey Baumeister, everybody at home, I'm assuming, is just like randomly really good at ping pong. Like
They
I
were
just
good. Yeah.
I could just really see that. Yeah.
As it turns out, Corey and Brad have a shared history, obviously, of playing together. So they were quite good.
Oh, so they have like experience. That's unfair. Yeah, if they have experience together playing together, you're already at quite the disadvantage there.
So at the last Pro Tour, there was no crazy after party or anything for me because I was exhausted at
Same.
the end of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Final Fantasy PT in Vegas, 22,000 people, I think was the number I saw thrown out by somebody.
Yeah, I think that number's correct. Like you said that because I remember hearing it from someone, and that sounds right. And
Yeah.
I knew you were going with this, and I gotta say, what an experience, right? You know, I'm not a big Final Fantasy person. I've played, I think,
Mhm.
one of them in my life. Didn't even finish it. There's nothing wrong with it. Like it's obviously a great IP. It's just it's one of the ones I missed, right? Um, I remember the top 8 was so fast that we got a break on the third day when normally we don't get one, right?
Yes,
Yeah, so they're
that's
like,
right.
yeah, we're just gonna like chill for an hour and a half, show all the games. So like I got to go walk around the event when usually I'm like literally chained to the feature match area. Like I can't
Mhm.
leave that area. And I remember, we're on the second floor and I go downstairs for the first time because I'm usually there before everybody gets in and then I leave after everybody leaves, pretty much, right? Same as you.
Right.
And so I go downstairs and I just remember thinking to myself, holy, like as I came
Yeah.
downstairs, there were so many people, Corbin. Like I had never seen anything so full in my life. It was unreal. It was like we're at like some concert or something. It was just the floor seats,
It became difficult to walk, and
Yes.
not like in a I'm not complaining kind of way, but I think
Yeah.
that they
There was no
were
space. Yeah.
unprepared
Mhm.
for even how popular it was, knowing how popular it would be.
Yeah, and I know you don't mean it in a way that, like, it was uncomfortable, we were packed in like sardines. There were just so many people in a good way. Like, I definitely didn't mean that in like, "Oh, it was uncomfortable and I wouldn't go back," kind of thing, and that's not just the WotC employee and me saying that, like, trying to make the Pro Tour sound better, but if you haven't been to a MagicCon before, for people at home that are listening, and you've thought about it, just go. Like, pick the one that you want to. Obviously, if you like Spider-Man, wait for, a Spider-Man one or whatever. If you like Edge of Eternities, go to the Edge of Eternities one, or just go to whichever one's closest to you, etc. Yeah, I think they're amazing. Like everyone there is just so pumped to be there. There's so much stuff to do. Like I walked around for like 2 hours. I couldn't even get to everything.
I will say that is my the most refreshing part of going to a MagicCon is that people are excited to be there. It's a very different vibe than say being on Magic Twitter.
Yeah. Or
Um,
just being around the pros who like it's nothing against them. They're just there to work. This isn't a
Yes,
let's
yeah,
have
yeah.
fun. Yeah. Same as you
Yeah.
and I, we're there to work.
It is true. I get my average for Commander games at a Pro Tour is like less than I just don't get to play any Magic.
I haven't brought a Magic card with me to an event in years, Corbin. My bag is closed and that's it.
I always bring one or two Commander decks just
Nope.
on the hope. Maybe.
just in
Maybe
case we
this
get that
time.
glimmer of hope and I get to get a game in.
It's got to the point where I never take my good stuff because it's like at some point it's just dumb to take around really expensive stuff when you have such a low expectation of using it.
And then going through TSA with that stuff is a nightmare as well.
Yeah, that's usually not the best. I do have the TSA. Well, I have all of the airport experience down in Oklahoma City down to a science. It's like an 8-minute from parking to gate.
That's amazing. That's so unfair.
It is very unfair. It makes me really lazy about airports. That's for sure. But yeah, so at the Pro Tour, at the MagicCon, more people than ever. Huge Final Fantasy focus. They had a giant Buster Sword for people to pick up. This was huge. On this show, we talked about the finances of all of this and how collector boxes, of course, started. I bought my first one at like 600. Obviously now they're 1,200 or whatever each. the Edge of Eternities collector boxes, I bought one over the weekend, was like 4 something.
Really?
It wasn't. Yes, it was like 430. And from what I understand, I'm gonna go look real quick, verify this. I got it at basically the retail price.
Wow, that feels like a high for retail, even for me. But yeah,
Exactly. Well, and that's what I'm going to get into here. Is that yes, $430 is the cheapest on TCG Player for collector booster. So Magic as a whole, and I think really this is post Final Fantasy, and we've talked about this on the show, is entering a new era of collectability. Like it was just a year ago that I got 4 collector boxes of Duskmourn for like $220 each. I think I ended up getting another one by the end of it. Like that was one of the most powerful sets we've seen in years. And think about that now. That price feels so quaint already. And that was just last summer. And I do think you can, it's not a direct tracing to this, but there were 22,000 people, the largest ever MagicCon, for collector boxes of a set going to $1,200. Like Magic is just really entering an unprecedented era. And we talk about here on this show, like how Pokemon money, it feels like, is coming in, where people are just buying the sealed product just to have the sealed product as an investment. And that may be why we're seeing Edge of Eternities boxes up in that $400+ range.
no, it's definitely the IP attached to it, right? Like since Magic has gone to the Universes Beyond product, stuff like that's gone through the roof. The price of it, the collectability has gone through the roof. You mentioned Pokemon. Do you know that's the number 1 IP in the world?
Yeah.
Period. Yeah. Like all my friends play it. I missed it. I just missed that as a kid. So like I think I could name like literally 6 Pokemon. And I'm not trying to be like, oh, it's not cool or I'm too cool for that. I just never was around it.
Very, very unlucky for you.
Yeah, I mean, if I would have collected when I was a kid, I'd just be like, I'd probably be rich, like I'd probably be like retiring off of it since that stuff outperforms the S&P.
For anyone watching on YouTube, I'm panning over to, I've got the first, I don't know if you know. Oh no. Well, everyone watching on YouTube is now looking at my ceiling fan as I drop my camera.
Nice.
Everyone else, yeah, when I was a kid, I played Pokemon and was there for the original and collected them all. And now I have the first 3 sets of that game framed on my wall.
Is that worth a lot? I'm assuming you don't have to say the actual number, but I'm assuming it's.
I
not
don't
cheap.
know what it's worth because
Yeah, don't look.
Well, Buddy and I just had all the cards, right? And so a lot of them are. So we didn't have it's not like we bought it, so we don't know what it would cost. That said, there are also the literal because they're the literal cards we had when we were kids, we still had them. But also because they're the literal cards we had when we were kids, they're all scratched to hell. Mm-hmm. So worth less than you might think is my belief. However, the way they're framed up and everything is so cool. I have to imagine that I know that I paid like $1,500 for the framing job.
Yeah, that stuff's not cheap.
not remotely. This is 3 huge frames. So, yeah, I don't know. It's worth some number of thousands of dollars, but it's a sweet collectible because that just meant something to me, right? Like I was there for it. It was a huge deal because that's what people care about with this stuff. It's real easy to just like, nostalgia is like a bad thing, but a different way to frame that is like it's stuff that means something to people.
Yeah, like I'm trying to think of like what I've got like that. I've got a couple jerseys that I want to get framed. I've got a couple Magic things. Like I've got an uncut sheet that I want to get framed. I've got a piece of art that I want to get framed. It's my favorite art in the history of Magic. It's Dak and Blackblade by Richard Kane Ferguson from like the original. It's like the first card I fell in love with as a kid. I was like, oh, this art's amazing. Because this game, again, this was like 1995. I've got that. I'm trying to think of like the keepsakes that I have from Magic too, because like that's a cool little thing to talk about. Like, I still have a card in a top loader that has a stamp on it from there's a Grand Prix that I almost won in limited once, and I had to like top deck in the last round to like make that top 8 of that Grand Prix or whatever, and like I still have the card like framed that I drew to get there, and I beat the best limited player in the world at the time to get there, so that was like a really cool one. I have some stuff signed by Kai that that obviously, what we talked about earlier and what's going on with him is going to have a lot more meaning to me and stuff like that. Like, I have a few of the things from like my own personal history, but I probably should have been better about keeping that stuff. It's just, I'm a collector and I'm not at the same time. Like, UB hits or misses with me, which is completely fine, right? It's not for everyone, but you will eventually get hit.
Really?
Yeah. I bought the Marvel one. I'll tell you that. Like, I'm a huge Marvel fan. I love the Avengers. I loved Wolverine and Iron Man growing up as a kid. Literally cried my eyes out watching that movie. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, I've still got that. Put away somewhere. And like I have a thing back at my house back in Baton Rouge where I have like my collection of stuff that like, this stuff's just not going to move. Like my reserve list stuff's in there. This like the UBs or secret layers I've bought that I want to keep. There's a few ones there, and there'd be a few more in the future. That could come around that I'm gonna get. There's another one that I need to get that it's on my list that I need to pick up that I haven't. Sometimes I need to get the
Sonic.
It's the Arcane one.
Oh,
from
that makes sense for League.
Yeah. I'm not a League player, never played, knew nothing about it. Arcane is my favorite piece of media that's come out in my lifetime, honestly. It's like my favorite show of all time. But so, just things like that. Like, that's cool, right? Like, I love this show that came out on Netflix. Like, absolutely adore the show. I've watched it like 5 times. I think it's a like perfect work of art, right? It speaks to me on some weird level I can't explain. I have a favorite game of all time, Magic the Gathering, that I've played on and off for 30 years, Corbin. 30 years. That's a lot, And, I've met some of my best friends through this. Multiple people that I've met through Magic stood in my wedding, things like that. Those two things have crossed paths. How cool is that? What if you're a huge Spider-Man fan? Because, like, that is probably the most popular Marvel character of all time. And you get to do this. You grew up, you played all the Final Fantasies, Corbin. Like, no wonder this was the highest selling set of all time.
I didn't, but the generic you certainly did, we found out.
Sure. I don't know if you were part of the conversation. It was before one of the Pro Tours. Marshall Sutcliffe brought up this, and he was like, how well do you think Final Fantasy is going to do? And I answered, I was like, I think it's going to be the highest selling set of all time. And he didn't think it would beat Lord of the Rings. And I was just like, yeah, I don't think you're ready for what's going to happen in like Japan and some of these other countries. Like, you're not going to be able to buy a pack of it. Like, I just think it's going to hit at a different level because, like, don't get me wrong, Lord of the Rings is great, amazing set, awesome IP. It's not the same as like, a lot of us didn't grow up with Lord of the Rings, even though it was there, but a lot of us grew up playing Final Fantasy 7, Sephiroth, or 10, you've got, what was it, 2 on Super Nintendo or 4? I can't remember which one that all these people grew up on. And I have nothing bad to say about these things. I know a lot of people who are like my age are like curmudgeons, get off my lawn. This isn't my Magic.
I see it. I edit Magic articles every single week. And the one thing that I find to be most consistent about people who dislike Universes Beyond is that they remind you that they don't like Universes Beyond.
Yeah. And here's the thing. If the game Magic the Gathering didn't do what it's done over the last 10-ish years, right? If we didn't get a CEO from outside of Wizards, we didn't have these pushes and all this stuff. Like, I don't know if the game still exists. I don't know if it survives COVID. Like, I don't know if we come out of it and come back the way that we have. Like, you can thank Commander and you can thank Universes Beyond for saving this game and maybe not like saving it, but getting it to the level that it's at because they saw the writing on the wall. I'm glad that you mentioned some of these other games like Yu-Gi-Oh! And like One Piece. These games that they transcend what they are, right? Like, I know so many people who buy Yu-Gi-Oh!, One Piece, and games like that. The games that had existing IPs before they became a game. I know some people that buy stuff from those games and have no idea how to play the game, Corbin. We don't have that in Magic, and now we're starting to. I guarantee you there's people out there who bought Marvel or bought Final Fantasy who either don't intend to play the game or found Magic through that and are like, you know what? I'm going to download Arena. I'm going to play on there a little bit. I want to play with Cloud. The
counter argument, right, for what you're saying, of course, that by doing that, people are not consuming Jace. Right.
Yeah.
At a really fundamental level, they're not consuming the Magic IP. That is the counter argument there, right? I think that there's lots of, and this discussion's been had ad nauseum, but hey, it's had fun to have it with someone new. I think that counter argument is strong, but I think that if we really just want to talk about it in just real terms, people who are watching on YouTube can see this right now. This is what Wizards thinks they are. I'm shaking a bag of Legos.
A bag of what? Sorry?
Bag of Legos.
Mhm.
This is Captain America and Red Hulk Brickheads Legos. It's a Universes Beyond Legos product that my kid and I bought because it is Captain America and Red Hulk. And there's a lot of Legos in my house. And we got a Lego video game. And we watched the Lego TV shows. And none of these things happen without Lego Universes Beyond. And Ninjago, which is a huge Lego original IP that's very popular. This is the important part.
Even I know about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that never happens without them doing Star Wars Day 27 years ago for the first time. So when you say thank Universes Beyond and Commander blah 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 for saving the game, it's really not an exaggeration. When I got into the game, I think a Pro Tour was cut off the schedule.
So can I piggyback on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this stuff saved the Pro Tour. I really legitimately think this saved the paper Pro Tour because I cannot believe the Pro Tour the way it was prior to let's just use the pandemic. Prior to COVID, when
all the pro levels existed.
Right.
Probably is
and the Pro Tour was its own thing. There was nothing else attached to it, right? It was not a spectacle. It was not something that the average person can interact with other than watching it or trying to qualify for. I cannot imagine how much money WotC spent per Pro Tour that was not recouped in a very readily accessible way. You could see on a spreadsheet. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Obviously it affects you, but not in the way of oh, we spent X on it and we garnered X from it. I'm just throwing a number. We spent 10 million, we got 10 million back. I don't know if that's what it costs. I have no idea. Right. But nowadays, you can actually say that the Pro Tour is, because I guarantee you it was a loss on paper. Right. On paper now, sorry, the business acumen in me is coming out. Nowadays, when they're attached to the conventions, the Magic cons, they're probably making a ton of money off these. I have to assume they're doing really well with 22,000 people showing up, selling out of almost every item and stuff. And then you just put the Pro Tour there, and it gets to kind of just get mixed in.
Yes, it's been very good for the Pro Tour. They also have put it front and center at multiple of the Magic cons so that everyone sees it. Yeah, it's great, I think. So, you're right about that. I think it's a good way to look at it. Because for many years, people talk about this, is that the Pro Tour was viewed as a marketing expense. All of this brings us around to Edge of Eternities, the current set, which has $400+ collector boxes. So I do wonder if there is some amount of Final Fantasy comes out, then we have a Magic set, then we have Spider-Man, then we have Avatar, I believe, right? So that is a lot of Universes Beyond properties in a 9-month time span. And I think there's a lot of pin-up demand for an in-universe Magic set like Edge of Eternities, which, in a weird way, they may be driving sales of things like Tarkir Dragonstorm and Edge of Eternities because a lot of Magic players don't like the Universes Beyond sets, but the Universes Beyond sets don't have an issue selling. So I gotta say, it does feel like Wizards is probably pretty happy with it from a corporate perspective. It's not, 3 out of 4 sets being UB is probably not awesome if you're not a fan of any of those properties.
Yeah, and again, you're allowed your own opinion, right? I'm never going to tell someone their opinion's wrong unless they say something like Michael Jordan sucks at basketball, just to kind of make the full circle of what we've talked about on the show here. There are some opinions that are just flat wrong, but like we said, UB is very good for the game. It's healthy for the game. Having most of the sets this year be Universes Beyond does feel weird. It's jarring. I can't tell you how many times I look at my phone on I still use Twitter or X or whatever the hell. I'm never going to call it X. I still use Twitter.
Man.
Right. I still use Twitter. And, I'll see a preview card and I'm like, that in like my initial reaction right away is that does not look like a Magic card to me, to some of the stuff, because you see the cool new version of it. But listen to what I just said, the cool new version of some card. They're still pushing the parameters of how Magic cards can look, the way we do it, the way they're foiled, they're embossed, like all the cool stuff that's going on with them. That's really sweet. Like, there's a whole bunch of new, different ways to do this. If you don't want to interact with it, you can just not interact with it, right? We've talked about the stuff ad nauseum. I don't need to go into this too much more, but it does feel weird when, like, you talked about, you're like, Edge of Eternities. I was like, oh, you mean an actual Magic set, like actually from the Magic universe, which is really cool, even though it's a new one. So, and it's jarring, right? Like, the set looks different and feels different because we're in a new spot. We have new types of cards. They're pushing the envelope just a little bit more.
Certainly with the art and mechanics, for sure.
Yeah, the art is wild.
Great.
It's wild and stuff. So there's this saying that I've always said about Wizards and games in general, Corbin, and I'm going to say it here because it applies here, and it applies to the game on a micro level of, like, the actual cards themselves and what they do, the text on the cards, not just the pictures, is I would rather play a game where the company makes mistakes every now and then than never makes a mistake. Because if you're playing in a game that always, the company making it is always safe, never has to ban a card, never goes out of their comfort zone, that game is going to get boring and either stagnate or die relatively.
Well, it's certainly not going to be around. It certainly, I don't think, would be at its strongest 35 years in.
Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah. This game can now rent a car, can drink and vote legally, is going to start looking into its 401k a lot and get its retirement plan in order at, 35. Like, the fact that this game is still around, still kicking, and possibly at, like, the height, some heights that it's ever been, is absolutely amazing. And you had to ensure that this game was going to be around, the rest of you and I's lives, into our kids' lives, kind of stuff. My theoretical kids and your actual factual kids that we've heard a little bit on this episode. They seem to have some strong opinions as well on some of the stuff. But yeah, I mean, like, I think it's just a net positive. You don't have to love every part of it. That's completely okay. I don't love every part of it. Right? It makes my job infinitely harder, Corbin. Like, sure, I am personally affected by the by the universe beyond by a lot. Especially, I don't even know if people know about what's about to happen with Spider-Man.
Yeah, with on Arena.
So let me explain to everybody. It's really quick. So without getting too much into the weeds, there's a weird licensing thing that goes on with Spider-Man. If you're familiar with the movies, like Sony versus Marvel, it's kind of like this. So when Spider-Man comes out in paper, you're going to open a pack, and it's going to be the Spider-Man set. When you play the set on Arena, there will be 0 references to Spider-Man. Every card will have the same text on it, but the names and everything will be different, and it will just be a normal Magic set. So for the next set, the Spider-Man set, we're getting both a Universe Beyond set and a normal Magic set. So I will have to learn this set twice, Corbin.
Yeah, and I do have to say, in defense of the Universes Beyond haters, that is just patently ridiculous. We have Magic Multiverse. Okay, we're going Universes Beyond. Okay, we're going to bring the Universes Beyond back within the universe, but not as it is actually kind of ridiculous. Almost as ridiculous as me saying, man, I can't wait for my Shadow the Hedgehog to get in. I really need to put it in my Deadpool deck.
Yeah, that's a wild thing to me. I don't play a lot of Commander, but I do like Dual Commander, and like Deadpool's really good in that as well. So like, I have interacted with this and just being like, what is going on? But here's the thing. While it might not be my cup of tea, I still think it's really cool. Like, I think it's sweet that you get to do this, and like the way in which you interact with this game, right? You have foils versus non-foils, extended art versus non, full art, whatever you want to call it, whatever version of the card you want. You get to go and find that version that you want the most, within reason, obviously. If the card's like $8 million, like, obviously you can't have that version if you don't have that, as an expenditure that you can do. But you get to custom, like, no one has the same deck anymore. When you and I were coming up, like when I was playing on the Pro Tour, my deck would look exactly the same as my opponent's if we were playing the same cards. My opponent and I could be playing card for card now, and our decks could look exactly not the same.
The biggest variation was whether you had unhinged or unglued basics.
Yeah, which basics you had, which back then we had like
basics.
5. Yeah. And I was always a beta guy. I've got like the old, I've got my basics that are almost as old as I am, right? And stuff. So I think it's really cool that the game has this like individualism that you can tailor the way your deck is, not just the way you play it and the cards that are in it, but the way they look as well. And that's really cool. It sucks for me when I'm doing coverage of an event and that's the 17th different art for a breeding pool. And I know I just said the 17th different art, and you at home are kind of giggling about that or being like, yeah, 17th. I think I'm low on that. I think there might be more than 17 Misty Rainforest.
There's multiple space arts of the same land in this set.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
I remember I used to vend on the side, and I remember getting ready for an event, and I had every form of Aaron Mesa at the time, and I think I had 13. And this was pre-pandemic, Corbin.
All right, I'm going to give you the number here. I'm going to count it out here. We've got Dissension, Edge of Eternities, two different arts in Edge of Eternities. So we're up to 3. Now, I didn't count. There's a Galaxy foil versus a regular. Because you can, I don't know if you know this, you can get non-foil cards. You can get foil cards. You can also get Galaxy foil cards in Eternity. So we're at 3. Gate Crash is 4. A couple promo pack printings from Throne of Eldraine gets us up to 5. Ravnica Remastered, that gets us up to 6, 7, 8, 9. There's a Clue one. That's 10. There's 2 in Infinity. That's 12. Zendikar Expedition, 13. So there is a minimum, and I might have missed one there. There's a minimum, I think, of 12 to 13 different arts for Breeding Pool.
Yeah.
And that, not a bad thing, but very different.
And then foil versus non-foil, extended
Yeah.
art versus non-extended art. If you count that, because I count extended art and stuff. So
yeah, exactly. There's and then of course retro framings, different foiling on those.
I'm a retro guy myself, so I get that. I try to get retro on everything that I can. I like my cards to look old because I am old. Yeah, so
so there's something to that.
Yeah, I mean we're harping on this a lot. We're kind of like which I'm sure you've talked about this a lot on the show, and other people have too. Obviously, it's great. It's just a net positive when you all come down to it. And I'm pretty much a purist too. This. Like I'm a baseball guy. Like I like the wooden bat. You know what I mean? Like I'm a purist. Kind of stuff. So for me liking it should say a lot. And like I think that overall people have too as well.
Well, it was good to chat with someone else on this topic. Tannon, thank you for coming on. Remind people real quick where they can find you online, and if you have any events coming up, they can catch you doing commentary at.
Usually the easiest way to find me is on said Twitter and under the Tannon Grace. I don't do social media a ton anymore, but I do respond pretty well in there. I mean, if you find me anywhere else, like on
Ben,
Discord
can you
or
let
whatever,
them know I'll be out there in a
where to
second?
find me. Other than that, I've got the Arena Championships coming up right after that. Pro Tour Atlanta. I'm sorry, Magic Con Atlanta. For the next set as well, and then possibly some more Kana stuff coming up this year. We're still in negotiations. There's a lot going on there. So
there you go. All right. Well, thank you for coming on. Thanks for chatting about Universes Beyond. And for everyone at home, I hope you kind of like just the back and forth interview episode here. Not big on it's the summer. It's a slow-ish period in Magic as we wait for Edge of Eternities to really start things moving. It's a slow period in the sports world, so it's fun to have conversations exactly like we had today. Because things are going to get busy really fast. Like rotation is here with Edge of Eternities. There's going to be a lot going on. So stick with Brainstorm Brewery. We will keep you updated. And reminder, you can get episodes early as well as get access to our picks of the week and our Discord. All of the information available within all of that at patreon.com/BSB. Thanks for listening to Brainstorm Brewery, everybody. See you next week.